Okay. Now I see myself and I see the other people coming on. Okay. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right.
Well, just about to leave. I was wondering what was happening.
Mm-hmm. Not hearing you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just spoke with Miss George and she said anytime anybody goes in early, if you don't stay on, it will cut off because that's the way it's set up. And I didn't know that.
I've been waiting for almost 20 minutes now. I didn't get
Yes,
up.
I understand perfectly. And I did not know that that was a feature that would go on. The way they have it set up so that she doesn't have to monitor it. If anybody goes in early, including me, which I did, and you go off, then it shuts off. So
Oh,
my apologies.
because I need to cut off too. And I find out. So this call.
Sorry about that. That's technology for you, and I'm just beginning to learn it. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having patience. And Sarah, I had seen your note. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I expected Mr. Todd to be on this call because he had called me earlier today. Anyway, how is everyone?
So far.
Fine so far.
Good.
Good.
Well, that's good. I read something very disturbing today. I did not realize that the NYCHA people would not be eligible to get assistance with their back rent. According to what I have read in the Times, they have been told that they're not eligible, even though a lot of them are having issues with being able to pay because some of them have lost their jobs since COVID started.
So I know last year they had to apply directly to NYCHA. I forget the program it's called, but NYCHA have this special. They had this special. It was similar to what everyone was doing, but it had to go through their office. Like their application had to come from NYCHA.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if that has yeah, it was something specifically with the application had to be done through NYCHA.
Okay.
And I remember were when they first passed the bill that created ERAP, I remember them saying um that public housing residents and Section 8 recipients were going to be like prioritized lower than than private housing tenants. I guess because there's the income restriction already, so like the amount that they would owe would be less, but I hadn't heard that they had categorically said you're not eligible anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't, it was like one of those unwritten stuff. So they were encourage anyone who lost their job or income was reduced, they needed to go to the NYCHA office. And I can't remember the name of the application, but they were supposed to apply there. Oh, it was called hardship. It was a hardship, something hardship. Can't think of it right now. But they would have to go to the management office and apply for this hardship. So that way, it depending on the situation, your rent would kind of either be frozen or reduced to whatever income you had. So I can't remember the exact terminology, but it was definitely considered a hardship that you had to go to NYCHA management to apply for. And I believe Miss Atkins have her hands up.
Yes, she does. Thank you. She does have her hand up. Miss Atkins, can
Hello,
you hear me?
hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So being that I am the NYCHA resident on the board, I can actually talk on this more than anybody else can. The hardship,
Okay.
it's not an application necessary that they just made up. A hardship, it's something that all NYCHA residents always can have. So at any time that they lose a job or any type of income, they can go and apply for a hardship. So what they did do though is they actually, when COVID started happening, they sent that out to people and said if they had any issues that to come to the office, like you said, and do file a hardship, and it will go back for like 2 months worth of stuff and cut it off. I have not heard about them not being allowed to apply for the emergency assistance like everybody else, because it's actually NYCHA sends out emails to all residents, and they actually said that they are, if you're one of the people who are on that application, that your rent is not going to, you're not going to go to court. So they actually, I haven't heard anything about people cannot apply for it. They applied for it already. If somebody can, a phone number, mute themselves, please. Okay, they can't
Hello?
hear. Can you mute yourself, please?
Hello?
I believe Miss Atkinson was speaking and there was some noise in the background. For the time being, could you mute yourself, please?
Eves Villas?
Mr. Velas, can you mute yourself?
That's Eves Villas.
Yes, can you mute yourself because someone was speaking?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. Now, Miss Atkinson, what were you saying?
So also I was saying that none of the I haven't heard anything. NYCHA like sends us emails, and they actually in the email said that if you were one of the people that applied, even though they know there's no money in it, they said that they won't be doing any housing evictions or anything processing with that. But also the Times might have got that mixed up, because NYCHA sent out an email saying that they're going to discharge big majority of, like, I think it's 2,300 or 4,000. I forgot the exact numbers. I can find the email where they're discharging anybody that was in the process of being evicted for lower amounts. They said they're not going after people with lower owed rent. What they're going to be doing is processing people that's been prior to COVID that owed for like 2 years, and they're going to start process with them because those are large amounts.
Okay.
I'll look up the email. Give me 1 second, and I can actually tell you what exactly it said. So I want you to have like the right information on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Just look it up. Let's see. Yeah, see, like it says, one email says apply for emergency rental assistance today. It tells you that you can apply for the emergency rental assistance program, which may provide up to 12 months of past due rent to eligible New Yorkers. So NYCHA people are allowed to have it, and NYCHA is saying that they're accepting that. So I don't know where the post had with that. Let me find. I'm gonna try to find the other one. I'm gonna mute myself, and then I'm gonna try to find it, and then I'll come back to y'all.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
In the meantime, does anyone else have something they would like to discuss before Ms. Atkinson comes back?
I just have a sad piece of news to share, I guess. So the Crown Heights Tenant Union just heard today that there was a member of ours who was evicted from, she lives on, well, her house is on Prospect Place, and she and her mother and grandmother, her grandmother bought the house in 1950, and their family was the victim of deed theft. And the person who stole the deed to their house has been trying to evict them for like 5 years, and I guess today they successfully were able to had the marshals deliver an eviction, and it's I mean, it's one family, but I don't know if one family's too much. It's just really awful.
Had they sought any type of legal assistance?
Yeah. Yeah, uh they had a, you know, a nonprofit lawyer who didn't really like listen to the family when they were doing the case. They kind of, it was probably one of many, many cases. Like these nonprofit lawyers sometimes have like 60 or 70 cases that they're dealing with at a time. And they lost one case, and then the lawyer, I think, dropped them, and then they got another lawyer. And it's just been a bad situation for a while. And
Did anybody go to Brooklyn Family and Housing Services?
Brooklyn Family and Housing Services, I don't know that particular, is it a nonprofit?
It is, and it's supposed to serve people in Brooklyn. It was actually started years ago by Marty Markowitz as the Brooklyn Tenants Council.
Yeah, I don't know if they had any interaction with that group, but yeah.
Sarah, did they bring it to anyone's else attention? Miss Granville, were you aware of this, or
No, I was not aware of it.
did they bring it to did we chat to any of the elected officials? Any like
Yeah, yeah,
what district is this? Do you know?
this is so this is, I believe, in Diana Richardson's district and Jabari Brisport's district.
She was
In terms of
prospecting what?
Prospect in between New York and Nostrand.
Have they tried Brooklyn neighborhood improvement? Because my office can assist them. We have assisted many tenants. So maybe you need to give them our phone number. I can have my staff to go to housing court with them. Right?
But the marshal was already issued them papers. Is there anything that can be done now? You're mute. Raj,
Muted. Unmute.
can't hear
I'm
you.
sorry. Yeah, maybe if they come to my office, my staff can see what they can do, probably go to court with them and probably stop the eviction.
But I'm saying, even though the marshal issued the eviction, you can still stop it?
They can still do, yeah, they can do something to help them. Yes. All right.
Yeah, I mean, from the notice that was put on their door, it kind of looks like the eviction has already happened. And
Are they
I don't
locked
know.
out?
I don't know.
We'll
A
lock out.
few of us have tried reaching out to her, and we haven't heard anything back. Yeah, we're a little nervous.
Okay, I know she was speaking to you, but has she spoken to anybody else from any of the council people's offices or anything?
Yeah, in fact, multiple people came out in May when the eviction moratorium actually lapsed for a few days because Brian Kavanaugh's office made a had made a typo in the eviction moratorium renewal bill, and we did a rally out in front of her building, and all of the, well, I don't know about all, but several candidates for Council District 36 came out. I mean, we'd sent the invitation for this rally to like all of the elected officials, current and prospective, and Chiose and Oh, the other candidate, her last name was maybe Wright? No. Anyway,
Rita
um,
Joseph? No.
uh, so Chiosei had come out there, and I'm gonna follow up with him tonight to let him know that this happened. But yeah, from the notice, I'm not positive if more can be done. But yeah. Oh, Miss Atkinson, her hand is raised.
Miss Atkinson?
Okay, so I got it. Give me 1 second to bring it back up. So they sent out, it's also on, you can probably find it on NYCHA's information as well, like if you go there, but it says it actually was released February 3rd. It says today, as part of NYCHA's effort to reimagine how it approaches evictions, the authority announced that 90% of the 34,000 rent-to non-payment cases that existed in housing court as of March 2021 has been resolved without judicial intervention. Moving forward, NYCHA will prioritize cases for accounts that owe significant amounts of arrears that extend past 2 years. To date, there are 2,300 such accounts compromising an estimated 44 million in past due rent. So what they're doing is like they're trying to, reduce, it says it's reducing the number of evictions, so that they also says, they are allowing them to having NYCHA apply for ER. Some NYCHA is actually applying for the ERAP on residents' behalf as well. So that's what I said. I didn't hear that was something that they couldn't do. So NYCHA is applying on the behalf of families that owe rental money as well. So, and they said that if you have an application, they are not going to process anything against you as well.
Okay.
It's a lot. I just didn't go through reading everything. That's what it says on the NYCHA's page. But like they said, they're not doing any type of litigating cases against anybody with a ERAP application or anyone that's in the recertification, interim recertification application. And they also are not going after families where head of household is over 62 years of age.
Okay.
So that's something that they're doing. If they had multiple cases filed against it, they're discontinuing those cases as well and only keeping the most recent one.
Okay.
What else is that? They also they're working with HUD to grant waivers to families to self-certify their income loss. And that's what the interim certification process is there, so they can try to like rearrange how much the tenant will owe and how much the rent will be going forward.
Okay.
That's what they're doing.
Well, that's good because I can only imagine how many thousands of people would be out in the street if they had not made some provisions.
They said 34,000, and the fact that there's still 2,300 that they still can go after, but they also sent in an email to all NYCHA residents that they said that if you the large amounts are who they going after. So if you owe $12,000 of rent because your rent was over $1,000 a month and you haven't paid, those are the people that they're going to go after, the larger amounts. But
Okay.
if it's the lower amounts, they're not going to bother them in any type of eviction process or bother them about paying the rent.
Okay. Well, that's good because I'm seeing so many people sleeping on the subways. I cannot imagine thousands more people on the subway every morning because I saw 3 on the car that I rode in this morning, and a friend of mine saw 5 the other day when he was on his way into Manhattan to go to work. So if people don't have any place to stay, it's going to be a much worse situation.
Definitely.
And I feel bad because you all had the rally in May, but that was what, 6 months ago?
Yeah, so she hasn't responded yet, but if I do uh hear back from her, I, and if there's further information, I'll reach out to the committee.
Just so that you know for future reference, as far as I know, that the Brooklyn Family and Housing Services is still in existence. As far as I know, I haven't heard that it no longer exists. And you just heard Yaya Raji talk about BNIA. So again, it may be that people don't have a list to exhaust because they may not know that there's more than one organization that they can actually reach out to. I'm hoping that that is indeed the case, because I can't imagine what it must be like for someone to show up and tell you that you don't live someplace that you've been in for years and years, and especially a place that you paid for.
Yeah, and her grandmother is 90 something years old, and
Mm.
I just can't imagine being forced out of your home at 90 something years old. And it's, yeah.
And I remember a couple of years ago, prior to COVID, I believe it was Crown Heights North Association that had a district attorney come in and talk about deed theft. And now that we have all these city agencies where the people are not working full time, they might come in 2 days, they might come in 3. It can be a nightmare trying to straighten something out if you have a small problem and you don't know who to turn to, because if you call, you may or may not get a live person on the phone. You may or may not be able to leave a message. And it can be difficult enough if you know who to call and if somebody actually answers the phone.
That's what I was going to say. Because everybody's working at home. When you call, the phone ring and ring and ring and ring and no one pick up, and people are just they're just confused. Because today, a lady around 75 years old, she came to my office on Flatbush, and she's applying. She's we certified for SNAP, and I spent 2 hours calling. No one picked up the phone, and they stated that because of COVID, there's a backlog. And I mean, there's someone 75 years old, and they gave her a deadline to call to certify for SNAP, and she doesn't have a cell phone. She have a landline. So therefore, she now I have to tell her she has to come to the office almost every day for the next week or so till we speak to someone for us to certify her. 75 years old. So this is what's going on out there.
And is there
No one
any
is in there.
office that you all can appeal to on her behalf?
Yes, no, that's what I said. I just refer her to someone from the office. So for her to come, for us to keep on calling for her till we speak to someone.
I'm sorry.
And I've been doing it since Monday.
What? I'm sorry to interrupt. What organization are you with?
Oh, that's Erasmus Neighborhood Federation in East Flatbush.
So why aren't you connecting with your elected official?
Oh man, these people are useless. I'm getting sick of those elected officials because you go to their office, they're closed also. They tell you because I went to the Congresswoman Clark's office, I know very well. Their office is closed.
Sir, I'm going to interrupt you for a second because that's not a federal issue. That's a city issue.
No, I know that. No, I know that.
Let me finish. Do you know who your elected official is? Who the council person is?
I've been working with these people for years because we have a new council person.
Sir.
She just got elected.
So here's the thing, right? Each elected official office have relation with intergovernment, HRA, intergovernment relation person. What that person does is address the needs of that 75. So for she should not, on no circumstances, be getting on the bus or the train or however she to come back and forth to do something. I know, like, I hear you about elected officials' office, and there's some have closed, some are, I hear you. However, 75 years old should not be leaving her house every day to come to get help. The intergovernmental person for HRA, you should be able to reach out to your council person and say to them, this is who I have Miss X here. This is her case number, and she's been asked to do this, this, and this. We can send the information to this intergovernment person. That's what they're there for. We have to hold people accountable. It's frustrating. I hear that, but you can't. The constituents should not be the ones suffering because we're frustrated because certain agencies not doing what we. That's where the accountability piece comes in. Like, we have to hold them accountable. And that's what those intergovernment agencies, that's what those guys get paid for. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional because right now.
So do I. I was
Right.
so upset with one of them today when I called the SNAP office, and the only thing that was answering me were machines.
But I'm
And I
saying
got
to
very
you, reach out
frustrated.
to your intergovernmental unit. There are people specifically, they're called intergovernmental relation. The HRA has one, each city agency has one. And if you're not getting somebody on the law level, you need to reach out to the intergovernmental relation person.
Um,
I
Good evening, everyone. This is Mimi Mitchell. How are you? I can definitely sympathize and empathize with the gentleman that just spoke about his frustration with getting a hold of city officials or getting help from them. The reason I say this is that I volunteer at an organization by the name of Legal Hand. Legal Hand Crown Heights. It's the one on Kingston and St. John's. Um, there's not a week or that goes by that I don't get a call or five from people who contacted their local council person and were referred to us instead for exact problems that he was just referring to. That's what's happening. So, Ms. Robinson, I'm so happy that that you acknowledge about this and you can educate us so that we can hold them accountable. And I would just like to suggest in general for everybody, from what I've been hearing tonight, number one, Ms. Robinson, if you wouldn't mind maybe just putting something very quickly together in terms of who, what, and where we should be talking to and what the script is, because you said that so eloquently. And I would love to know how to advocate the way that you suggested. And I would also ask or suggest that maybe we put a list together of all available agencies and help. So, in terms of Sarah bringing us this issue, it would have been nice to have a central database, I guess, or information or even document to have been able to refer to other local community groups that may be of help. Just a suggestion. Thanks all.
Thank you.
And I just need to add that, because since COVID started, that was back in March 2020, most of these not-for-profit organizations were not operated in person. So my organization was one because I was getting bored at home, and I went back to work in person back in June 2020. So which means not only I'm getting people coming for SNAP, we're having people who want to apply for DMG, for Social Security, I mean, it's a huge problem. So I'm glad that someone brought a suggestion to give us some numbers to call beside talking to those machines because I'm getting frustrated and I don't know who to turn to. And as I say, some of these elected officials, we have a lot of new people who just got elected. So which means most of those people who work for their offices are not really a turn of what's going on yet
You know.
because the year just started. And those
Yeah.
people just got elected, what, November? So they do not know either. So they have to talk to those community-based organizations in which some of them, they do not have anyone in their office working. Because I know one organization, one of the person who was working there, it's a Brooklyn organization, right? And the person actually live in Boston. I mean, this is outrageous.
She lives where?
In Boston, Massachusetts.
My
Because you
goodness.
don't have to be in the office.
Mm.
You can work in Zoom, right? So this is what's going on.
Okay.
Mm.
So, sir, okay. I do realize that the council member, there are several new council member and staff is also new.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them are reaching to me anyway, because they have to introduce themselves. But also one thing that you have to know, since they are new, they already have their own people online to work for the office. They're not going to follow from whoever was there before. So these people have to adjust themselves first before they can really do certain things. And again, as you mentioned, that my 75-year-old client, because first of all, she was not my original client because she went to somewhere else, and someone else referred her to me
Wow.
starting Thursday. So which means today that luckily I have two volunteers from Medgar Evers, social workers. They're trying to get their BA in May. So they work patiently with that old lady to keep on calling. And the other thing is that she doesn't have a cell phone. She still have a landline. So therefore, so I told her, okay, not to come to the office, just. But again, the person have to be in person. They're not. Sometimes if you speak to one of those bureaucrats, they're not going to speak to you. They want the person to be next to you, especially
Miss
if you deal
Porter,
with. Yeah,
excuse
if
me
you
for
did. Yeah.
interrupting you, Mr. Billis, but in a case like that, shouldn't the Department for the Aging have some sort of advocacy for seniors?
Well, they are, because we have a lot of them with SCREE, that senior citizen vote exemption program. Again, the problem is that they would like to help, but these people they're not in their office, personally. That's the main problem. If we can have the way that we're talking now, if we could do that with a lot of organizations, that would be fine. Because right now, I'm working with HPD. I have one contract with HPD. They told me some of the workers they're in the office, but they're not accepting anyone else working working help. Because they have a system now they call accelerator. So that from the mayor's office, for you to upload some of your work. I cannot find anybody from the mayor's office helping me because I'm confused. I don't know how to work it out. And they told you the only way that you have to talk to them, you have to send them email. I email them almost every day. No one return my email. So it's very confused out there, very much so.
That's a nightmare.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I have a
I
question
Yes.
with the HR with the HRA stuff. They're in the office. Um, I know that you're a private organization helping out, but you can also bring her to a multi-service center that's controlled by HRA. There's one in your neighborhood by the Canberra where they have direct numbers to these off the HRA offices. That's why I actually put in there, I said, did you take her to her local SNAP office? Because if you go instead of her coming to your office every day, if you take her to the local SNAP office and walk her in there and tell them, and she's an elderly woman, they will process her and they'll say, oh, we'll call. All you have to do is ask to speak to a manager and say she's trying to get recertified. how I know this, because I used to work at HRA, so I'm giving you information. I'm no longer there, but I do know how there's the process. I know
No,
the
it's just
process.
that the office, there is no one in the office in person.
There,
No,
no,
this
no,
is
no, no. No, I'm telling you that HRA is about 98% of them are back in the office. And I'm telling you because I just left there
they're
a little
letting people
over a week.
in.
They have
Oh
walk-ins.
man.
They have people walk-ins. What I'm saying to you is take her to your local SNAP office or to the local multi-service center, which is your Campbell on Flatbush Avenue. And I used to live right there. I went to Erasmus Hall High School. I know this neighborhood. So when you say stuff, my brain is going. If you
Mm.
take her to the local Canva office right there, if you can't get her to her local SNAP office, Canva has the direct numbers to these locations and they can help you because they are a multi-service center. Like I said, my old unit used to be in control of them. So I'm telling you what I know. If you can't go to Canva, take her to any SNAP office in the neighborhood and literally you go in there, you can make a complaint, say she's a 75-year-old woman, she's been applying, no one's calling, and someone will deal with her there right then. And all of this coming to your office in the cold every day is no need for that.
All right.
Ms. Atkinson, sorry, just respectfully, I'm gonna have to just I appreciate that information, but as advocacy workers on the front line, taking a client into the SNAP office is not always possible.
I understand that.
In this particular situation, it's wonderful that we can do that. Because I think I'm sorry, I don't know the gentleman's name, but I
Oh,
think
that's
that
Eve.
he is. I'm sorry, what is it, sir?
Eve. Eve.
Eve. Oh, thank you. Yes, Mr. Eve is willing to do so, and he also has the manpower to do so. But I'm listening to this, and as someone, like I said, as an advocate, I can't walk my 75-year-old clients into a SNAP center. I need to be able to get them on the phone, and I need
I
them to do what they're
understand that.
supposed to do, or answer an email.
But if people are not able to, instead of you sitting there, I understand what you're saying. I get it.
Mm,
I truly do understand what you're saying. As my own advocacy and what I do now, but I'm telling you, um, these are options. I'm giving you options. Now, I understand what you're telling me, but instead of me being critical or anything, these are options that there can be. If they can't do it, do they have a family member? And the reason why I said if he can't take her to the multi-service center, maybe I can refer her, get the address and send her there instead of her coming to your office every day. And so these people who have the direct numbers can get the information for her. This is all I'm saying. I'm trying to give some options. There's many different options that can be taken. And also, if she's an elderly person if she had any issue about coming out of her office, there's a whole unit, like for the agent, there's a whole unit that will do your application immediately. They'll call her on her landline and have her at home and won't have her coming outside. How do I know that? Because my elderly grandmother, when she was alive, that's how we got it for her back before I ever worked for HRA. So these are things that I'm trying to give
No, that was
advice.
before. That was before COVID. That
But
was
no,
before
They're
COVID. You're
still
talking
doing
even
that now,
before
sir.
past.
COVID,
during
it wasn't
COVID,
working.
They're still doing it.
they're still doing it though, because I understand what you're saying, because people were at home working for COVID. I worked from home for 18 months. I do know where HRA was. But I'm saying to you is that if you can't get through certain numbers, that call 311, the agent, and ask them for different numbers. I'm just thinking that there's different ways, and instead of it just saying I tried and nothing is happening, well, try something new and giving you new information.
I'm sorry, Mr. Eve, did you actually contact Rita Joseph office?
Yes, I called. The phone rang, and at one point someone did not answer. And when I explained to them what the situation is, and because I told them I'm going to continue working on that, because when I call SNAP, they tell me someone is going to call. Someone is going to call. We sat and said no one ever called. But I think it's a new system. This is just came in. It wasn't like that before. Before they just used to just send you a letter, and you fill everything on the letter, and then someone from SNAP tell you they're going to have an interview by phone with you. But this is a new system they came right now. They want you to do everything by phone. That's the problem. Before SNAP used to call you. Now you're the one that have to call them, and that you give them all your personal information, and they'll do it for you. It's a new thing that just came in.
Mm.
Okay. Oh,
Well, ladies, I thank you so much for your information, Miss Porter and Miss Atkinson, because if you were not on this particular call, we would have no idea, like you said, that there are other ways in order to try and get things done. And I can only imagine how frustrating it must be for people who don't understand English well, for people who are new, who don't know anything about the system.
Right.
And
Yes.
Lord, if you happen to be a certain age, to have to even think about running out here as cold as it was last week. We having a warm day today, but as cold as it was last week. So, Miss Mitchell, we will definitely consider what you said about putting some information together. And Miss Atkinson and Miss Porter, we will run it by you before we put anything out to make sure that it's accurate. Because it's obvious that people need some help. And this is this is a community where people will ask. Can you imagine being someplace where people don't ask and don't know?
I was wondering, uh, I guess this conversation is also reminding me that so the Crown Heights Tenant Union has also been, along with the Right to Counsel Coalition, we've been trying to get in touch with um, Assembly members Zinnerman and Walker to set up meetings because a lot of tenant organizations throughout the state are trying to set up lobbying meetings. And where there's been some confusion at times about the who the right people to contact are. I mean, we've part of the problem is that we have the right people, but they're not answering the emails. But I was wondering if it would also make sense for the community board to sort of have a stockpile of the contact information for the various for the various like constituent services or intergovernmental relations people for our council members and maybe also for the other electeds. Because just as for a random member of the public, the email address that you see on the elected officials' website is not always one that gets responded to immediately. And sometimes things can go a lot more quickly if you say, "Oh, I have the specific email address for the scheduler for
right.
this elected official," or "I have the specific email address for the constituent services person for this elected." And so I was wondering if maybe that's something that the community board could accumulate and have ready. Um, I mean, maybe it's too
So
many steps, but
So let me just jump in. So first of all, the intergovernment relation information, that's not made public, right? So that's between the elected official office and the government. So that is not something that the public will ever have. However, when you say Walker, you're talking about Latrice Walker? Okay. So like the scheduler constituent service, that's public information. When I'm saying public, that is something that, yeah, we can put together. Um, Ms. Granville, I'll be happy to help you with that if it's something we want to work on.
Okay.
But as far as the intergovernment, that's not public. That's again between the relationship. Imagine having that information when to the public and everybody's calling. Yeah, no. So but the scheduler, constituent service, chief of staff, those information I can help put together.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're right. A lot of times people email the council member themselves, and like Alika at one point in one given day, she had like over 200 email. Right. So people say, well, the emails aren't, yeah, but no. So she tries to read through her email, but that doesn't happen, right? So you do have, so can you send it to the constituent serve? Can you send it to the schedule? Can you send it to this person? So yeah, that does make a difference. So like I said, I'll be happy to work on that with you, Ms. Granville.
Okay, because it sounds like it's desperately needed.
Yeah, but keep in mind those staff change too. So
Yes.
so
But you know what? I hate to say this, but thanks to you and people like Miss Atkinson, we do have a leg up on that information, because the average person who just stays home and they go to work every day and they don't attend any community meetings and they don't talk to anybody, they have no idea where to turn when certain problems happen.
right.
Yep.
And Miss James, I see your picture there. Are you okay? Do you have any questions?
No, I'm still stuck with what Sarah mentioned, because I'm still complex and confused about the situation she has given, that the person who stole the deed is evicting the owner. So that is something I still trying to comprehend and wrap my head around. You know, I still, so somewhere along the line, I'm missing something. I'm there are missing parts in this story, not from Dr. Lazar's perspective, because I'm trying to understand. You stole my deed, but you now turn around and evicted me from my home. You know, somebody please explain that to me in a term that I can understand. And I cannot see how something like this actually happening in a country like this and in a place called New York. And the moratorium was just lifted.
Mm-hmm.
And that person got it only the 15th, and this person get that, see a judge, was able to see a marshal, and the marshal has to give 30 days.
Yeah.
And it's not 30 days since the eviction, the moratorium was lifted. So as she spoke, I'm going through my head. It was lifted on the 15th. When did this person see a judge?
Yeah.
When you get your letter, the marshal has to wait 30 days. So how come they evict somebody? So something, it's not right in this whole that took place
Sorry to
against the
interrupt you,
family.
Ms. Princess. My
Yeah.
understanding is that it's 14 days,
Okay,
not
but
30 in
okay,
terms of the marshal. But anyways,
it,
regardless.
but
It is
before it was 30 days because I'm a landlord. So maybe they cut it in half. But even with that, it's not between going to the getting to see the judge, your case being placed on the calendar, you seeing the judge, you going to the marshal, and the marshal getting the letter, doing the paperwork. It's not a month yet. Because if I know my calendar from the 15th of January to the 15th of February is somewhere within a month. Today is only the 9th.
Yeah, I mean,
So
a lot.
there's some problem in this whole thing. And I think Yaya Raji said it needs to be looked into. Because if you're the person that stole my deed, I can't see how you can evict me from my home.
well, I think the Attorney General needs to know about this case. With Attorney General involved, they can
Yeah.
put a stop. Okay, so
Okay. Not
let me
only the Attorney
want to
General.
refer the clients to my office and see what we can do to help
Okay.
her. All right.
This is what happened to me. I remembered when under Obama, when they were lowering your mortgage rate. Remember when the banks were selling the loans over from one bank to the next? One
Yes.
paper was not hand over. So when we applied to do that, it seems like we have two mortgages.
Okay.
We paid money. I remember Montgomery was sitting. I went to her office. I did what I had to do. She made a
Senator
call.
Montgomery, right?
Yes, the same paper that they claimed that could not have worked. After she called, she sent me to Snyderman. He was the attorney general. He started process of having an information session, but then he got caught up in whatever took place with his personal life that sent that down the drain. So what I'm saying, the attorney general needs to know about this, because
They need to.
I am
Yes.
still stuck somebody who stole my deed can evict me. I'm still stuck in that part. So
Well,
I
it's
think
not
this needs
something
to
new,
be-
especially in Brooklyn. My office, we deal with so many like that. So we always have the attorney general involved. Okay.
But I want to know that one more. Sarah, how come you guys never involved the Attorney General's office? Or
So,
haven't you? Yeah.
yeah, so actually, I'll just, so her name's Cherie. So, they had actually reached out to the Attorney General's office and multiple times and never got any follow-up
Which
from
one?
them.
New York State or the local attorney general?
New York State.
New
Yeah,
York State.
just James's office. And yeah, and also, I mean, a lot of, those of us in the tenant union were also baffled by some of the timing. Like in May, the eviction moratorium had only lapsed for a total of 3 days, but somehow they had scheduled a, a like an appearance for Charisse and her family during those 3 days that it had lapsed. Like, I don't know how they were able to immediately drag her into court in that way. There's just a lot about how fast everything went that,
It is.
like, we're
But
all
see,
baffled too. We're still trying to understand it.
The
And
district attorney wasn't notified on the city level? Because I know you're talking about the AG, but I just like to know, nobody from the district attorney's office was told about this?
and they have
it's been a
they
while
have a
since I've heard the story from her, but like,
Miss
she reached out to so many people. And
Miss Granville, the district attorney has a theft department also.
I know.
But
They do.
Dr. Lazar, the next time something like, I know your union is dealing with something like that, I think please bring it to the board as early as possible, or to the housing committee, that people who have ideas because and who able to work and would have been in a position to say, okay, go to the DA's office because they're also a theft department. I know that for a fact. And they could have done something because the numbers are not adding up. And I'm going from what you said, and this has nothing to do with you, meaning this whole thing needs to be investigated and look into in depth. But one of the things people need to do, I have an alert on my they need to put an alert there. If you
Yes.
go online where you can anybody check into your account, the city send you an alert.
Yeah.
I have that. So if anybody pull up anything that has to do with my property, I get an alert. And I'm a person, I go and I get a copy of my deed. I just went and I get a copy of all my deeds certified in person. And you need to keep checking on them. So I think those are things that we need to speak about in the community at large.
Sarah, does she know
Well,
the person who's
you can
speaking?
keep track of your deed by going on acres to
Yeah.
register your name, your property, and everything. If anybody put anything on your property, they will notify you
Yeah.
That's
right
what
away.
she's talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. I did it. Yes. But not only that, every 6 months you can go and get a certified copy of your deed. It just cost you $28 or something like that.
Yes.
So you can
That's
walk.
worth the peace of mind.
Yeah, yeah, you can walk. I just walked in because I know what's going on. About a couple weeks ago, I walked in and get copies of my deed and have them certified.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things that we need to educate our community about.
Sarah, does she know who stole the deed? The reason why I'm asking, because there's a lot of relatives who are doing, they're selling the properties
Mm-hmm.
to other people without, let's say, I'm gonna use me and my mom, for example. Someone came and offered me a nice suitcase, and I signed over everything without my mom's knowledge. And then when, my mom gets served, I just say, "Oh my God, what is this?" So they're seeing a lot of those cases. So I was just curious if the person knew who actually initiated the whole deed stealing.
Um, I can't remember. Like again, it's been a while since I've heard her tell the story of what happened. Um, so it, it's hard to remember. I mean, there's definitely a name that was on the like one of our members like just took a picture of the notice, and so there's a name on it. And I think I might have remembered that at some part of the story, maybe somebody had like tricked her grandmother into signing a piece of paper,
But
and that, and I mean, and her grandmother is again like 90 something years old, and
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm.
And they go after the most vulnerable people, and especially if that person is by themselves at that time and they catch them and there's nobody to say, hey grandma, what is it that you're signing?
Right.
They may go ahead and sign it, and the family may not even realize that this happened until later.
Yeah. Okay.
Because, you know, even on the telephone, they take advantage of seniors because they call you up and tell you, oh, your grandson was in an accident
Yep.
or your granddaughter was kidnapped or some such crap. And then they ask for money cards and they ask for money and all this type of stuff. And if you, well, I read AARP, so they have all the scams listed in there. And you read about all of them. And it's horrible the things that people are doing. And a lot of times they're doing it in connection with COVID because they know it's an emotional issue. So they take advantage of the situation. So yes, our community needs to be, as Princess said, more aware. And if it takes $30 every 6 months for your peace of mind, then I think it's worth it, especially when you have something as valuable as a piece of real estate in this city. It's worth it for your peace of mind to know that nobody has changed your deed, and at any given time, your deed is at your fingertips. Because it's horrible, some of the things that have gone on, and it's becoming more horrible because people are taking advantage of this whole COVID situation.
Yeah.
And they know that it's very hard for you to untangle things for the very things, reasons why we just spoke. People are not in their offices. You can't really get a hold of the people that you need to speak to. And I'm gonna say this while we're talking about it. Are you aware of the fact that you can sign up to get a notice as to what your mail should be every day?
Yeah.
Some
I have
people
it.
some people may not be aware of that. You may not get your mail that day, but at least you know that you were supposed to get a certain piece of mail. For
It asks
people
you if you
who,
got it or not. It
right.
does. Mm-hmm.
So for people who, God forbid, there's a problem with the mail, for our senior citizens, if you don't have somebody reliable to bring your mail in every day, that can be a good source of information for a thief that wants to take things from you. Because they have your address and whatnot. And I hate to say this, but we have people who live their entire lives by Facebook. Everybody should know where you live. They should know where you go on vacation. They should know, see your airplane ticket. I had to fuss with my cousin about that in North Carolina. I said, honey, I'm glad you're traveling. But people shouldn't see your ticket because that's information they don't need.
Right.
So you don't need to let people know all these things. And then sometimes unwittingly, people say things online. Does everybody need to know your birthday? Do they need to know exactly how old you are? If you go to such and such a restaurant on a frequent basis, do they need to know that? Because I love it when I hear these stories with these people saying, oh, well, such and such a person just happened to meet me in the phone store. Really? It may not have been a chance meeting. It may have been a surprise for you, but it wasn't a surprise for them because they were looking for you. Stuff like that. So you have to be so very, very careful because if things are just public information, that means people can get them. And if you have, God forbid, a situation where your mailbox doesn't lock and you don't have a post office box, that's a gold mine, especially if you have your bank statements and things sent. That's all somebody would really need. And if you're like me and you don't always change your passwords promptly or regularly, that's another thing that's a bad thing because some people use the same passwords for everything. So you have to think about all of that stuff. It's good to be online up to a point, but there's disadvantages and there's cautions that you have to take when you live your life online. It's very convenient, but it can be very costly as well.
And the city employees know all of our business is online anyway. Our salaries are online. Where we work at is online. So
Mm-hmm.
your information is on there. So they already know certain things about you just because of that. So if you got a promotion and they check up your salary for the next year, they know you got a promotion. When
Mm-hmm.
Your
salary raise-
salary's online?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And they may not see.
Ah,
So if you got a raise within that year, they won't see it until the next year. But yeah, our salaries are online. Information is
Mm-hmm.
online. All of that. Where our locations we work at sometime are on there. Yeah. So that's the part about being all your information. So if you're supplying, that's already supplied, and you're supplying your information on
Mm-hmm.
social media. They have everything.
And if your
It's
information is that readily available, why should you give someone more information to work with?
I agree.
And we won't talk about the agencies who do not take proper care of their employees' personal information. We won't talk about what happens when these government agencies get hacked and they get your information. It's not pretty. And when they tell you, oh, well, we're going to give you credit monitoring because we're not sure whether or not someone has your information, that doesn't exactly make me feel secure. Now, if someone got the information or had a chance to get the information before, I want to know what steps you're taking to make sure it doesn't happen again. I sit and I read a magazine called Government Technology where they describe what other states and other cities are doing to protect their information, the information of constituents, the information of the employees. I'm sitting there and I'm looking like it's another universe because I don't hear any of that stuff going on in my agency. So for those people who think that because you're working for the so-called city or the so-called state that you have it made, it's not always the paradise that people think it is.
You're right. Even if you like with me, I was going to actually step down from the board because of my new position. Might be conflict of interest on certain committees, I was told. So, um, I don't know if I'm going to stay or not yet, but we'll see. But you're right. You get in positions and say you can't participate in certain things because depending on what agency you work for. So certain things, unfortunately, like I might not be able to be in land use anymore. Unfortunately, those are things that you just think. So I understand what you're saying. It's not such a luxury. I won't complain because of my income and my position, but yeah, it's so this
Well, I
interesting.
hope that you can stay on, even if you can't participate with land use, whatever committees you
Yeah,
find that
I can't
are
vote on
not,
certain things.
if there's not a conflict of interest, please, we need your involvement and we need your voice.
Okay.
And I want to say this to everybody here. I'm happy to see everybody involved and you're setting a good example for your relatives and your children. So they understand that you just don't wake up one morning and decide that you're going to change stuff for the sake of change. You actually may have some concrete ideas as to how things are supposed to work. And I think it's always good to know how things are supposed to work before you decide to institute change. So I'm happy for your involvement. And the more the merrier, I say, because we have 50 people for a neighborhood of what used to be 100,000 people. It may be more now. It's quite hard for 50 people to speak for that 100,000 because you have all of these things that are going on in neighborhoods and in blocks that you may not know. So unless you have somebody sitting in that room or under the sound of a single voice and they know each and every concern, you need a wide range of people who can participate, who have different concerns and different interests, who can let you know exactly what's going on. So it's very important. And I tell the board members, if you can be on at least 2 committees, it's good because you get a broader view of what's going on in your area. If you only on 1 committee, you just hear that one group of concerns. And if you have a chance to go to a precinct council meeting, you hear a whole different level of concerns, because a lot of the precinct council people will never set foot in a community board meeting, but they are homeowners and a lot of them have been in the community for years. So it's a very dynamic constituency and it can change, but I find all of it to be interesting. It's what makes Crown Heights the gem that it is. So I'm hoping that as we go forward, even if we can't have the in-person meetings, we can somehow get younger people to become involved, because a lot of decisions that are made affect younger people and they need to be sitting in the room when these things are discussed. Because they may think about things in a totally different way from the way we do. So it's very important.
I said that when I joined, that they need to put the information out into the community, because like I said, I live around the corner from the community board office and never knew anything about their involvement in the neighborhood. And that was sad because they need to put more information out. There are plenty young activists out there in the neighborhood and they know nothing about the community board. And that was part of, like, we went on the economic development committee when we went out on what's that, Utica Avenue and Ocean, and we let the people know what the community board is and things like that. People, a lot of people, and Kim could tell you, we went and a lot of people didn't know anything about the community board, and they was like, what do you mean the community board helps? And oh, I didn't know that. So it's a lot. It's the community board needs to, all committees and in the actual committee board needs to put information out into the community so people know that there's a place that they can go to and talk to people and or get the information in these meetings. And yes, we all went and researched it ourselves, but there's people that have no clue about that. And if there's somebody can pass, like, I give information out. So if people can, I use my social media to say, join the people I know in the neighborhood. I'm like, join, you always talking about doing something. Well, come on into the community board meeting today. So I say stuff like that to them. And of course, some of them don't come and they make excuses, but at least the word is out there and they get to know. And then even if one person does join and just listens in, they get information that they didn't know about. So I think community board needs to actually do better on how they send information out, or like something. And I know it's COVID, but maybe a mailing or things like that, or like like the housing committee, we know the NYCHA tenant presidents, and have them post information for the community board meetings and things like that in the buildings. So those are things that we can do.
And honestly, I think that some of these meetings where we're all on the same screen, to an extent, if it's a hot button issue, it has raised awareness about what community boards do. Because if it's something that people feel strongly about and they know that it's being discussed about, they may only find out by word of mouth or something. For them to sit in their living room and be able to tune in, I think it has really jacked up the interest in community boards, because before, people who never came to a meeting had no idea what we discussed or what we did or who was involved. So now they get a chance to see, and they also get a chance to see that they have an equal opportunity to let their concerns be known. And I think that's very important, especially when you live in a city like this, when you can feel like you're easily being run over multiple times a day. I think it's important.
Oh, Sarah, I just saw your message. Did you get an answer about Rita Joseph? Was that answered? Or were you asking if she was the new, you asked
I
if
was
she's
just
the new
wondering if she was the council member for that area that Mr. Villius was talking about.
So that I won't
And
know.
I don't know.
Can't know unless the address of the person. So you have Rita and you have Farah. So I don't know which one. Mr. Evie still on the line?
Yes, I'm still there. Yes, is
Which,
that
which
the
council
new
member
elected
office
member?
did you
Yes,
reach out to?
Rita Joseph. Yeah.
Okay. No, so she's the new council member.
Right.
They said they took office in January. I don't remember if she said they're working remote, if their office is open or not. Okay.
But so far, she's reaching out to local organization.
I'm sorry, she's
So
what?
she's reaching out to organization because I already sent her a letter that I would like to meet with her on a face-to-face basis. But as because of that COVID thing, they have to really take time before they meet with a certain organization. But
So
I know that she's going around meeting with other organization, other people. Yeah.
yeah, because it's budget season, right? So what you need to do is send that email to District 40 at council.nyc.gov, or you send it to D40 scheduler, which is
The
the
police schedule.
let me hold on, don't quote me right now. Let me pull it up. Give me that so hold on one second. I'm going to my telephone number is 917 833 3088. If you can call me tomorrow, I'll get you the correct information. Because I have too many of the emails in my head right now, and I don't want to get them. I don't want to give you the wrong information. So if you call me
Okay,
tomorrow,
let me know the number again. 917
833
Mm-hmm.
3088.
Mm-hmm.
And my name is Kim.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just ask me for the correct information to get to her scheduler.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because again, the council members are, they're new, they're trying to get to understand what the needs are. They're meeting with a lot of people. And at the end of the day, the best person necessary is to get to the scheduler. That is the person that will put in the appointments and direct the council member and where and when she has to be at certain places.
All right.
All right. So you call me tomorrow and I'll get the correct information for you.
Okay, good. Thank
All
you,
right.
lad.
All right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, is there anything else related to housing that we need to discuss tonight? And I have not heard as to when Mr. Agnotti will be coming, but we are going to try to work it out so that we have a joint meeting with land use and housing. Yes, Ms.
So
Robinson.
at the last meeting with Ms. Wedderborn, I was actually driving. Did she say that you were combining the two committees?
For that particular presentation,
Oh,
yes, it
okay,
wouldn't be, well, I put it to you like this. It will formally include members of housing and members of land use, but anybody else who wants to join in is welcome, because it would be a public meeting like this is a public meeting. We only have, what, maybe 9 of us? But if 40 people had wanted to come, 40 people would have been welcome.
Okay.
So it would be that way.
Okay, so it was just for that. I thought, like I said, I was driving and I thought she said something about merging. I was like, wait a minute, they're merging land use and house?
No,
But I couldn't
no.
ask the question.
Listen, after what we went through to get the second committee, it wouldn't make sense to merge it permanently. But for this particular topic, since he's going to talk about rezoning and 197A and all of that, we thought it would make sense because we have a lot of new people in the community who keep clamoring for a neighborhood-wide rezoning. And since he has been involved in that, we would like him to talk about it. We'd like people to come forward with their questions. So it should be quite a lively meeting, and hopefully it won't take all night.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'm happy that you asked that question because I know how hard it must be to try to listen and drive at the same time.
I did want to follow up on the idea of sent an email. I wasn't able, like, we don't have the ability to email the housing committee the way that we do for the land use committee, but I had sent the land use committee an email about the fact that that the public advocate's office, their worst landlords list had
Uh-huh.
a lot of representation in Crown Heights. And
Okay.
also the Right to Counsel Coalition has their worst evictors list. And they, Crown Heights is also overrepresented in that list. And I had proposed in that listserv that maybe the housing and land use committees could maybe write a letter to our council members asking them to take action on this. But then I had to miss the next housing meeting, so I wasn't able to bring it up then. But I'm just wondering if that's something that the committee would be interested in doing. So I have like the list of all of the Crown Heights, all of the people on those lists who own properties in our area. I guess so. I'm just throwing it out there to see if there's interest among the people in the committee. And I'd be happy to work with anybody on, coming up with a draft letter.
Now let me ask you a question. So the worst landlords, as compiled by the Public Advocate's Office, what would basically we are concerned that they are on such a list, and what would we be asking them to do?
Right, that was my question.
Yeah. Um, well, so with the worst landlords, a lot of it has to do with, buildings having massive numbers of violations that aren't being cleared up. And also sometimes that they're able to get HPD to close the violation record before it. They allow the landlord to self-certify that the issue has been rectified when it really hasn't. And we also have a situation where sometimes they end up in the alternative enforcement program, so the city ends up coming in to make the repairs, and then the landlord isn't paying the bills that the city sends them for essentially doing their job for them. So I guess, there could be various demands. I mean, maybe audits of the violations, perhaps more aggressive enforcement, maybe more funding for HPD inspectors. I had read somewhere that Eric Adams wanted to make 3% cuts across the board to all agencies, but HPD is one that we really need to be strong and aggressive, especially in our area. But there may be lots of different ideas for what we could potentially ask from our council members.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. So based on you're asking the committee to write a letter to the council member to ask them to take action around enforcement?
Yeah, enforcement of the housing code and oh yeah, sorry, I just saw what Ms. Atkinson had put in the chat about all agencies except two. Yeah, about perhaps it could be maybe increasing the budget of HPD, maybe hiring more inspectors for the Department of Buildings, or maybe also some training even for the police about the tenant harassment laws. Something that, you know, something that with a particular tenant, something we had found out was that most police officers are not really aware of the tenant harassment laws that got passed in 2019. Tish James um, was active in getting that passed, but a lot of police officers are just unaware of tenant harassment being a, a felony potentially if it gets to past a certain point. Um,
I'm
so these
still
are sort of unformed ideas.
okay. Right. So I hear what you're saying, but so when I think of worst landlord, I'm trying to figure out how when I'm thinking about the tenant, right? So I'm thinking anything that we're trying to do would be to the betterment of the tenant. So a landlord who is because the bill does it, I haven't seen the list, right? So does it say what the landlord is, why this particular landlord is considered a worst landlord? Is it the building is dilapidated, there is no heat, or there is harassment by the tenant? Like, does the list say specifically what the issue is that put that person in the category? Because when you're talking about writing a letter to a council member, asking them to increase the budget, I'm again just using these as an example, increase the budget of HPD. HPD is already going out and giving the violation, right? Because the landlord is not completing the violation, there isn't, and I'm trying to just try to figure out, I'm trying to understand it. What is a letter going to, from a council member is going to say to that landlord? Or like, I'm still trying to figure out, because at the end of the day, most of these landlords are really just trying to get rid of their tenant, right? So they're in a position where, let's say this landlord owns a 16 unit or a 10 unit or a 12 unit building. They have the money to like say, I don't have to pay this $2,000 fine. I'm good with that. I'll just pay it. I don't have to make that repairs because I want to get those people out. So I'm really trying to understand, like, what is the goal of sending up, like, what are we looking to accomplish? We're trying to penalize the landlord or make the landlord pay the fine, or we trying to get the landlord to make the repairs so the people who are living there are living in a decent place? Like, what is the goal?
Yeah. No, it could be. I mean,
You don't have to answer, but I'm
yeah,
just, we're thinking about it. So like, just writing a letter for me is to be, what is the end goal? What am I trying to help or punish? Or it's like when everything I'm doing with my son is like, what does the end look like, right? So again, there's a list that said these people are horrible landlord, but is the committee goal really trying to better the lives of the tenant in those residents in those buildings, or is it just trying to whole spotlight these landlords? Okay, you haven't paid the bill to the city. The city will get their money one way or the other. At the end of the day, they will find a way to get the money from the landlord, right? But tenant, the people who are living there, that's for me, that's what I want to, if I'm going to work on writing a letter, I want to make sure that the tenant that's living there is benefits, something is coming out from them. And I know a lot of these landlords, they are good with getting 20, 30 fines, because usually at the end of the fines is usually a couple of $1,000, and that's change in their pocket.
yeah,
So I wouldn't even waste my energy on trying to say this stuff. I would try to focus on how can we make the lives of those people better, and how can we get the elected official now to twist, or however you want to phrase it, to get those lineup to make those changes. Not necessarily getting more money in HPD budget to get inspectors. They have inspectors. right? They find no, I'm focused. I would be really more concerned on working on how do I make the lives of those residents better? What can we do? What can we put in a letter to say to the CM, to council members, that these are 10 horrible landlords in Crown Heights. How can we, these are the issues, how can we get them to make sure that the repairs are done? These people have heat, water, the building, the cat, whatever is issue is, how can we make their lives better? That's where I would, you know.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
appreciate your comment, because the district leader, the district manager will ask me the same question. Well, what's the point in the letter?
Yeah. No, and I mean, you're totally right that like for so many of them, it's yeah, it's not just about like, oh, I don't like repairing leaks or getting rid of mold. It's because I want these tenants to be out, and I've got like 60 different buildings, so I don't really care if I get into trouble with just a few of them. Um, and I guess I was just trying to think of what kind of intervention, like the community board, housing committee, because the tenant union has its particular way of fighting against that sort of abuse in order to try to push people out, and a way of dealing with harassment. And then the community board is just different, and so like we're able to sort of advocate for particular policy solutions. So I don't know
Yeah.
if maybe like if this would be a conversation that we would like to have about what because we all know different aspects of the housing system here.
Right. Just to
Yeah.
hop on to what Sarah's saying, I mean, and this is totally not a fleshed out idea, but just something that popped into my head as we were all discussing this. Maybe the community board can send a letter to the landlord, letting them know, hey, we know who you are, we know what you are, we know that if you want to be a part of our community, clean up your act kind of thing. I mean, of course, we'll say it much more polite than that. And then possibly a letter to the tenant saying, hey, we just sent a letter to your landlord and we're here to support you.
Okay.
Let us know or keep us posted, or these are some resources, or what, just something in that, like a sort of everyone's getting put on notice. And I think especially the landlords getting put on notice by the community board is, even though we don't have the actual legislative power to do anything,
Right.
I think it does. They don't like attention, too
Right.
much attention. That's a big thing with them. Like they want to be able to do their shady business, turn off people's heat, and do all that, and only keep that to a certain circle. And as you said, HPD, they don't care about HPD. That doesn't bother them. But what they do care about is publicity. Those are the things that make them clean up their act. Anyways, that's just a thought that kind of had risen while the discussion was happening.
That's an excellent idea, Miss Mitchell, because two things can happen from that, Sarah, right? Maybe those residents don't know that they have the support of an organization, right? They may not realize that people care what's happening. And sending the landlord, say, listen, we're watching you, kind of thing. Um, and then also sending to the residents saying this is what. So I get Miss Mitchell, that's actually an excellent idea, and I'm more comfortable going that route. And just like again, letting them know many people don't know, and if you don't know
Mhm.
the questions to ask,
Or who do we even ask them
who
to?
do you act exactly? So that I would be more comfortable going that route and saying, okay, we've identified these people. This is what the issue, and then say to the resident, we've reached out, and definitely including resource, including, these are what, yeah, I would go that route. I definitely would go that route, because at least there's something. And again, it goes back to my thing, the resident, the tenant. We want to make sure that they're informed. This is what's happening. These are the resources. There are people out there that cares about what is
Exactly.
happening to you
Exactly.
without retaliation. So that's an excellent idea, Miss Mitchell.
Thanks.
Yeah, I really like it too. Um yeah, it's interesting because like a landlord is not going to, they're a tenant union, they'll just be like, ah, whatever, they're gonna hate me no matter what. But if so there's like less shame or whatever. But if they know that the community board is reaching out and saying, we're paying attention, we see what's
Exactly.
happening, uh that's more likely to create some
Yeah.
shame on their part.
Because now
Um,
you've got the district attorney, you've got the AG and you've got the community board. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a far off, it's not as far off. So then you've got the AG, plus you probably have the tenant unions, plus I guess applying pressure, right? Pressure. The
We
more
gotta
pressure.
remember, we gotta remember many of those landlords don't even live in our community.
They
Right.
don't.
oh yeah.
No,
And so,
not at all. Yeah.
yeah. So the fact that they're on a list, they like, that list has been on for like God knows how long. There was no serious recome, so they get posted. Yeah, no one pays
Yeah.
attention to that. But I
Mm-hmm.
think you're stirring it right now, saying, wait a minute, it's not just a list in this community. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put you on blast, like the young people said. Everyone is gonna know this is that. And with social media, yeah. So yeah.
And I think it will be interesting for them to know that after we have reached out to the residents and said to them, well, you are this particular landlord in this building is on this list. We would like to know if the conditions improve or if they become worse. Please let us know. You know, that way, like Miss Mitchell said, they will understand that somebody is actually paying attention. And sometimes the pressure has to come from the outside
Yeah.
because sometimes when people have complained to a certain extent on the inside, the people pay them absolutely no attention because it's business as usual. So you pay for the violations and you keep going. So I think it's a good idea.
Hey.
And
Um,
if we are unfortunate enough to ever have to do this whole tax lien situation again, I'd like to see our committee organize something similar to what they were doing in Bed-Stuy. And if we need to, go out and knock on the doors of some of the houses that are listed so that these people will understand that you do not have to just throw up your hands and wait for somebody to show up and take your house. You can actually come out and speak to the agencies, and there's actually something that you can do. There are alternatives, because from what Ms. Robinson had told us, there are some communities where people don't understand that.
Yeah.
So they need to know that. Because we've had city council people. I hope we don't have any in this group. But I remember asking as a committee, land use had asked Mr. Cornegie for a list of the houses that were due to be lost to the third party transfer program, and he never responded. So even though they're new, I would like to see all of them send some type of representation to housing and to land use so that they would have some idea what the concerns are. And that way, when things come up, we would not have to bring them up to speed from ground zero.
so I'm like, I would be willing to draft, like, just do a first draft of a letter that could be sent, on behalf of the community board, or the committee or the community board itself, to some of these landlords from the list, um, and maybe also a letter that could go to the tenants of those buildings. I could put my email in the chat in case other people would want to work on this with me.
Okay.
I just dropped my email in the chat, so you can definitely.
We'll email each other. And all are welcome to join in this drafting process.
Well, ladies, I think we've discussed a lot this evening. Is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up?
Is HPD has a new commissioner yet, or the same person is still the commissioner?
I'm sorry, what?
HPD, do they have a new commissioner?
That's a
No,
good question. I
I
don't
think
think so.
I think HPD is one of the many positions that the mayor has in place yet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought I heard that HPD did have a new commissioner. Never mind. I don't know.
It might be that they have someone that's doing dual positions, so it might be HPD might have someone, but they're doing dual positions. I think HPD was being some overview by some other someone that was doing some other program as well.
Mm.
Well, if they have dual positions, I hope one doesn't fall to the wayside. Don't laugh. But sometimes people can think they multitask very well and they really don't. But it would take the constituents or the recipients of the certain desired services to be able to say that.
Okay.
So please check your email. Hopefully we will be having that presentation from Mr. Agnotti. It probably won't be this month, but it might be in March, but please keep an eye on your email. And if you're not sure, you can always call the office during the day and find out if it has been scheduled, just in case there's a snafu where you're not notified promptly. Because I wouldn't want anyone to miss it, because people have been clamoring for this for quite some time. So it should be exactly what people want to know more about.
Okay.
And we know folks don't like to read a lot of pages and pages and pages. So if somebody can explain it to them in language they can understand and they can ask questions, hopefully that will satisfy the thirst for knowledge. Ms. Robinson, thank you so much for your participation as usual.
It's my
It
pleasure.
has been quite informative. And Ms. Atkinson, thank you so much. And I hope that you can remain on as many committees as possible. Mr. Villas, it's nice to hear your voice after so long not hearing you.
Yeah,
And in
because I
case
say I
you
was
all,
sick for a while, so I'm trying to, to fight,
he's back in.
Yes.
Okay, well, good. And I just wanted you to know, in case you had not heard, that Mr. Staten is in what we used to call CNR. I forget the new name for it now.
Yes, I sent him a card. Yeah, get
So
well card.
I'm happy that you did, because at first when the notice went out, it said to send a card. And then I saw a notice earlier this week where it said that he would welcome visitors. So
Okay,
I'm
that's
going
good.
to try and get past to see him, because he's such a people person. I guess he does feel a little bit closed in, and he feel a little bit isolated, the fact that he can't
Right.
really participate as he once did. So since he has been an institutional memory for land use for many, many years, I think it would be good if he gets as many cards and phone calls and visits as possible.
All right. That's great.
So
All
thank
right.
you for sending him a card. And like I said, I'm going to try to make sure that I actually pay him a personal visit, even if I don't stay but 10 minutes or so. but I don't want him to think that we forgot about him. So everyone be safe and be well. Keep the good ideas coming.
Mm.
Even though it's cold, it has been cold. Try to get out at least once a day and take a walk. Because if you're like me, as long as you have breath in your body, you really don't want to just lay around and not do anything if you can help it. Because I find as I get older, the less I do, the less I will feel like doing.
Mm.
Yeah.
So everyone be well.
Okay.
And
You too.
can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night.
Night
Good
all.
Have a good
night.
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 Okay.
All right.
Was good and cold. You know, with the 3 hours.